Hopefully you are all here to attend the Creating an Excellent Micro-Internship Application Workshop. So my name is Amy. I'm from the Careers Department at Queen Mary, and I, along with a few of my colleagues who are also on the call today, our main job is to help you get placed on micro-internship applications. So before attending today's workshop, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you feel in your application? If you can just put a number in the chat for me, with 1 being least confident and 10 being most confident, it'd be great just to see how you're feeling at this stage. Don't worry if you're not feeling very confident, or don't feel embarrassed to put that in the chat. That's absolutely fine. Hopefully by the end of this, you will be feeling super confident and ready to go with your application. So today is a great opportunity to find out what we expect you to do in your application, get some prompts to help you start, and also see some past examples too, which I always think is really helpful. Okay, so I just want to briefly summarise our micro-internship scheme, just so you know what you are signing up for and what to expect. Some of you might have done this already, but I'm just going to go through it very quickly, just so we're all on the same page. So our micro-internship schemes, they are a 40-hour voluntary internship that will help you gain experience in a professional setting. So they aren't paid, but they do offer really valuable opportunities that can help really boost your chances of getting a career further down the line and helping you work out what you want to do after university. So with that in mind, what they can do is they can help you to develop professional communication skills, research skills, analytical and time management skills. They can increase your employer network by you getting to go out and meet new employers, which can also mean you can get an employer reference, which is again is really valuable when you're looking for a new job. And also it is something that you can list on your digital transcript, so your HERE transcript, which again can be a really good thing to boost your CV and overall help with your employability. Now, just to get us all ready to go, on the screen in front of you, these are just our goals of what I want us to achieve by the end of this session. So hopefully you should be able to recognise why it's crucial to link your answers to the criteria employers are actually looking for. You should be able to understand and apply the START model to structure stronger, clearer responses, and also break down and analyse real example answers to see what works and what doesn't. Now, not only are these really useful for when you're applying for micro internships, but also these skills are transferable as when you're applying for a job further down the line. These techniques, again, will be really beneficial when you are applying and help boost your chance of getting that job that you are looking for. So we're going to be focusing on how to answer our application questions for the micro internship and to score points. So you are going to be assessed by my colleagues when you are writing answers to the questions that we posed you, which I will go through in a minute. And your job is to highlight what makes you stand out. So employers know nothing about you, and you need to be able to show them. So don't presume they know something about you. You basically need to spell it out to them. We won't be assessing you on your CV, so we do ask you to submit it, but we will be simply assessing your suitability from the answers to the questions, which as I said, we will look at in a second. So the way you talk about your skills is really, really important. Don't think you're bragging by talking about something you're good at. It's important you can highlight this to us and to the employers. So as long as you're able to back it with some evidence, which we will help you do, and I will mention the START method later on, which will help you really clearly explain your experience and hit that criteria that we are looking for. Now, to get us started, I'm going to go briefly through the application questions that you will be asked. As I mentioned before, we aren't using your CVs to shortlist. we will be using these questions. So it's really important, even if a skill is listed on your CV, that you really focus on including everything important in the answers to these questions. So the first application question is, please tell us what motivates you to apply for this internship position and how the opportunity will help shape your future career choices. And there is a word limit on it as well, just to be aware of. With each of the questions on the application guidelines or on the application page, we also provide a little tip to get you started and to sort of guide you in the right direction. So for the first question, the tip is, we are looking for you to demonstrate enthusiasm in gaining work experience via this specific internship. And we want you to tell us about your learning goals and career motivations and how this internship will help you achieve these. As I said, that will be on the screen when you're applying, so no need to sort of make a note of that right now. So that question is all about your motivation and why you want that particular role. The second question is more about the skills, so the relevant skills that you have that make you suitable. So the question is, please tell us what relevant skills and attributes you can bring this internship position. Again, there is a word limit on that, so make sure you keep that in mind when you are answering your question. And similarly, there is an answer tip to prompt you. So with this one, it is, read the section on the job advert which asks for the skills and attributes the employer would like the student to demonstrate in their application. Provide examples of where you have demonstrated these skills, e.g. via part-time work, societies, volunteering, or your studies. Make sure you don't just repeat the same thing in both questions. It's important that you focus on what is being asked in each question, specifically because if you write a great answer that includes all your relevant skills, but put it in the motivation section, we won't be able to mark you on those skills. We only are able to mark you on how you answer that particular question in the answer box that will be provided. So the first question we're going to really focus on how we can best answer that is the skills question that I mentioned. So some of you might recognise the STAR technique, which we think is a really good method to help you structure your answers. And this is where each letter represents a different aspect that you should include in your answer. So S is situation. So think about when you're asked about a specific skill, think about a context or an example that you can give and explain the context for that situation. T stands for task. So what was the task? What was a problem you needed to solve or the task you were dealing with? A stands for action. So what did you do specifically? Don't talk about something your colleague did or your friend did. You want to give examples of what you did specifically. That's the only thing that we and the employers are interested in. And then R is result. So what happened? What was impact or result? So were you successful? So even if you might not have been 100% successful with something, you can still use it as an example if you then go on to explain how you would do things differently. And also if you have data to back up your results. So for example, maybe you increased number of followers to a social media account by 20%, you can add that in as well. But on the other hand, don't add in random numbers if they aren't relevant or if they're made up, because it will be really obvious, and you don't need to include them if you don't have access to them. It's absolutely fine. So some of you might have already heard of the STAR technique. You want to make it as easy as possible for the assessor to know how your skills relate back to the criteria. So we've added the letter T, so transferability, to make the STAR technique, which we think really just boosts your answer and makes it even clearer. So for example, you might be applying for a finance role, but you haven't worked in finance before, which is fine. Lots of your skills from university or work or volunteering will be transferable, and you want to make it as obvious to the shortlister as possible about how they are, and that's where transferability comes in. So how can you directly link it back to the criteria of the role? I would recommend taking a screenshot just so you can use this when you're thinking about how to apply or how to answer the question about your skills. and this will just set you on a really good path for success with that question. So we're going to have a look at a past example, a really good example where the START method has been used. So this example is from a sustainability role at a company called Bywaters. And the question, same one that you'll be asked, was please tell us what relevant skills and attributes you can bring to this internship position. And the criteria that this person is focusing on is supporting Bywaters' goal of promoting more responsible waste practices. So here is an example paragraph taken from an answer to this question. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes just to have a read through this paragraph. If you're done early, I want you to see if you can spot the START technique. So see if you can spot the situation, task, action, result, and transferability part of this paragraph. So I'll give you a minute or so just to have a read through that. So just have a read through this example and see if you can spot situation, task, action, result, and transferability. Okay, so I really like this example because it goes into a lot of detail about their thoughts and how they have evaluated the situation to really get a positive result. Now, in terms of the START technique, we should be able to see, so S for situation, you can see this person noticed a gap in raising awareness about waste management on campus. So I'd say that would be the situation. The task would be, oops, sorry, mouse isn't working. There we go. The task would be, so I decided to join the sustainability committee and wanted to find ways to promote sustainable practices. So action, I took the initiative to create a social media campaign dedicated to waste reduction. Also, they said they used Instagram to share tips on minimizing waste by creating short reels. So that's all to do with the action. The result, the campaign gained traction with increased engagement on each post and positive feedback from students. They've also gone on to mention particular sort of result and impact on themselves. So it has made them more confident in using social media as a tool. The transferability, so T for transferability, that was hopefully the easiest one for you to spot as it was highlighted in red. So this again is where they've just used a single sentence to summarise how the skills they've listed in this example link back to that criteria, which was supporting Bywaters' goal of promoting more responsible waste practices. So highlighted in red is the transferability. So I'm confident that my ability to build a clear and engaging narrative around waste management will help me design campaigns that connect with disengaged customers, supporting Bywaters' goal of promoting more responsible waste practices. So you can see it doesn't have to go into too much detail for that last part about transferability. You just need a single sentence just to link that back. And it really highlights to the person reading through your answer how you have met that criteria, which is the key thing that they will be looking for. Now, if you're still thinking, I'm not really sure how to begin with that structure, you might find this flowchart helpful. So it can be a good way to work through when you're using that START method to answer the skill question, and you can tick it as you go along. So again, if you want to take a screenshot, you can, if you think it might be helpful. So it's simply another way to think about using the START technique. So you want to start by reading through the skills that the employer is looking for on the job advert. So there'll be a section which lists the requirements, the criteria, the skills. Make sure you're aware of all of those. Then you can do some brainstorming and start thinking about the examples that best showcase how your skills match the skills that the employer are looking for. And then you really want to highlight the result with those actions and those examples. And as I mentioned, always use the transferability, always link what you've done, the result, back to how that matches the skills that the employer is looking for, just to make it really easy for them to mark you highly when they're assessing your answers. We're going to have a quick look at another example of a skills question. So this is slightly different role. So this is for a marketing assistant at IQ East Theatre. Now, when you start thinking about how to answer that skills question, the first thing I'd recommend you doing is reading through the role requirements on the job advert and then highlighting those key points, which is what I have done here in bold. So the key points that the company is looking for is a genuine interest in marketing and storytelling, to be familiar with social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok, able to use basic design tools, and confident and clear communicator. Also, just to remember, don't just use vague skills that you think might be suitable. So, for example, you might be great at timekeeping and organisation, and you might want to share that. But if you're not mentioning the skills that are in the job advert, we can't mark you highly to then hopefully progress you to that next stage of getting that role. So even though they might be really, really useful skills, if they're not the skills that are listed in the job advert, then you won't be increasing your chance of getting offered that role. So just something to think about, to always focus back to these criterias. So with that in mind, what I've done just to make it nice and easy for you to see is, so the criteria that was listed in this advert here has been broken up into sections and put on the side. So for example, familiar with social media platforms, interest in marketing, storytelling, able to use basic design tools, and then on the next page are the other two criteria. So you can do something similar by creating a paragraph for each of those criteria that the company is looking for, to make it really clear that you have met each of those criteria. It doesn't have to be really long, as you can see these are only a few sentences for each of those skills. But again, it's by separating them out into and using that clear start technique, really makes it clear to the person that will be assessing your answer. So I'm going to give you a minute or so just to read through these examples. And again, if you are done early, see if you can identify the start technique in your answer, or in these answers, I should say. Just a minute just to read through these, just to give you a bit of inspiration of the kind of thing we would expect you to answer and how we can break these down using the START method to really suitably showcase your skills. So again, with these, you can see how important it is to summarise each example with how the skill will benefit the company, how it meets the criteria, which again is why I've highlighted that transferability bit, that key point in red for you. Again, just another tip is try to include as many different examples that link back to the criteria, so you really can showcase your range of skills. So I'm going to move on now to the second question that we look at, which is motivation. Now, sometimes people can find this a bit daunting with where to start with this question, but as well as the sort of tip that I showed you earlier that comes with the question, I think this graphic here is a really nice way to help give you some guidance and prompts for things to consider that might help and inspire you with this question. So before you get started, I would recommend you reading each of these questions and thinking how you can answer these for the particular role. And remember, it might be different for each role. So if you apply for more than one, you want to reassess your answers depending on that role. So the questions you might want to think about when answering that motivation question is, how will this fit with your career aspirations? Why you think you'd be great at it? Why you want to work for this organisation? And why are you interested in this particular kind of work? So again, maybe take a screenshot or a picture of this just so you've got it to hand and can use it when you are approaching that motivation question. Just put that on there for a couple more seconds just in case you need to take that screenshot. Okay, so we'll have a look at an example for this motivation question. So the question, just to remind you, was please tell us what motivates you to apply for this internship position and how the opportunity will help shape your future career choices. Again, there is that word limit. So similarly to how we did it before, I've split each of those questions that was on this graphic into different sections, and you can do the same thing when you're answering your motivation question. You can take it one at a time and separate them into these paragraphs. So for example, when asking about how something aligns with this, how a particular role aligns with career aspirations, this person has mentioned that ever since seeing Hamilton at college, I've taken any opportunity to attend the theatre and have recently made my debut on stage. My long-term goal is to help arts organisations reach people like me who lacked opportunities to benefit from this sector when younger. So you can see that this person has given a really personal example, and actually organisations like to see a bit of personality, see that you have used your own experiences rather than just doing a really vague example that maybe ChatGPT has created for you without knowing anything about you. So try and showcase your personality and your interests when answering the motivation question. I'm just going to highlight this one here. So interest in company. So again, that was one of the motivational questions on that graphic. So I'm just going to read this out to you. So IQ East Theatre's commitment to using writers and performers from diverse backgrounds strongly aligns with my values. This internship will be key in shaping my career by helping me understand how to create marketing strategies that drive participation from hard-to-reach audiences and build an online brand that truly reflects the personality of this innovative new theatre. So often when we're reading through our answers, the answers might not have mentioned anything to do with the company, and that's a real shame because it means that you haven't really, well, I should basically say the companies prefer it when you mention and show an interest in them. So that not only does it make it look like you've taken the time to research them and are genuinely interested in their company and what they do, but also it means that you understand what the company is all about and their ethos, and you have made a sort of educated decision that you will fit in with what they do and you are interested in working with them. So it's really important, even if it's just a sentence or two, to mention why you're interested in that particular company. It also again shows that you haven't just copy and pasted the same response to multiple different companies. So it shows you've taken the time to really focus on that particular role and you're interested in that role. So that's just something to think about. Now we've had a little look at the skills question and the motivation question. So I hope that's given you a few tips, especially with those graphics and techniques that you might be able to take away with you to use when you're approaching your application answers. But these are just a few key tips I want to sort of finish up with so that you get the best possible chance of securing these roles. So first thing, make sure you check your spelling and your grammar. Often in sort of external applications, if you have lots of spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes, companies will just ignore your application. So it's really good practice that you check through your answers and make sure it is all accurate and spelled correctly. Again, it just shows that you've taken the time to read through and haven't rushed out your application and actually genuinely care about the role you're applying for. So second, stick to the question. Make sure what you're writing links back to the question and the criteria for the role. As I mentioned earlier, if you're including all your skills, for example, in the answer to the motivation question, we can't mark you on that. So make sure you are answering the question that's being posed to you in the correct section so that we can give you the most marks possible to then take you forward to hopefully getting that role. Third, don't rush your application or leave it to the night before. Now, deadlines close on the 2nd of February to apply. I'd recommend maybe aiming to submit your applications before the end of January, just so it gives you a little bit of extra wiggle room if anything happens or something, a technical issue or something comes up, which means you have to delay submitting your application, as we won't be able to accept any applications after the 2nd of February. It also gives you a bit of time to ask a friend to read over it to make sure you haven't made any spelling mistakes and that you have stuck to the question as in tips above. Finally, if you're still struggling and aren't sure or still don't feel too confident or need a bit more help, do feel free to book an appointment with our employability advisors or careers consultants at Queen Mary. They are free appointments and you can do so on the Queen Mary's Careers Hub, and they'll be able to give you sort of one-to-one support to really perfect those applications. If you're not sure where to do so, just reach out to us and we can point you in that right direction. Now, finally, I want to just highlight these key dates. So do please make sure you're able to fully commit before you apply. So the applications do open today, so good luck with your applications. And as I said, they close on the 2nd of February. If you are successful, you'll be invited to a pre-micro internship training session on the 11th of March, which is compulsory. So it's really important that you attend that, as it will help prepare you and get you ready for your role. And then, as a reminder, the actual micro internship begins on week commencing the 16th of March and it lasts for 5 weeks. So make sure you are available for that time. Now, finally, I just want to ask if you can please put on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you now feel in your application? Hopefully you feel a little bit more confident, but it's just good to get some feedback and see how you are feeling in terms of confidence. That would be really helpful for us. Now I'm just going to stop sharing my slides so I can actually see the chat. Bear with me a second. There we go. So let's have a look, see how we're doing. Now, before we finish, there's only one other thing I want to ask of you. Now, if you feel like that's really helped you and you don't have any questions, do feel free to sign off. Otherwise, I'm going to stick around just for a couple of minutes if you want to, or if you have any questions you do want to ask, which you can put in the chat or just raise your hand and I will answer them. But thank you so much for those of you for turning up. Really appreciate it, and good luck with your applications. I wish you the best of luck. I can see someone has their hand up. Jemiah, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah. So when we answer the questions when applying, you said they're scored, right?
Yes.
So how are they scored exactly? Like, where's it out of usually?
So we will rate them. Typically, it's out of 5. We don't show our marking criteria, but basically, as long as you are answering the question that is on the screen, and meeting those sort of meeting the kind of the tips that we put on there with all the expectations on there, you should be marked quite highly. The key thing I would say is with particularly the skills question, the main thing we're looking for is you explaining those skills that match the criteria. So if you manage to highlight, so say for example, if there is 5 different criteria that the role is looking for, if you manage to explain how you meet all of those, you'll be marked really highly. On the other hand, if you are very vague with the skills and the skills you list don't match what's on the job requirements, then you would be rated lower. So you'd be marked down for that.
Oh yeah, and also when I'm talking about skills and motivation, can you like add a link as evidence, for example, GitHub?
So unfortunately, we wouldn't accept any links. We'd ask you to put all the information down in the text format. But however, in your CV, you could add a link to that, and that is something that the host, if you move on to that stage, will have a look at. So you can still add that in. I'd recommend you adding it in, but it's not something specifically you would be we would look at when we're shortlisting. But if you explain that you have those skills verbally, so for example, if you're I don't know, if you're mentioning some kind of app you've designed, even if you can't physically show it to us, if you explain the process, you will still get those, we'll still mark you highly because you've explained that to us.
Oh, okay.
Did you have any other questions?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yes, I just want to check if there's anything else you wanted to ask.
Oh, not really. I mean, I was gonna ask where where do they usually happen, the internships?
So in terms of location, do you mean?
Yeah.
So they're very varied. The majority of them should be based in London. Some of them are hybrid, so it might be a mix of working from home and working in a particular office. Some of them are remote, so completely working from home. But they should all be within a commutable distance, primarily within London. If you are travelling to an office, you are also entitled to ask for travel reimbursement as well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Excellent. Radhika?
Hi. I want to ask that, like, what should be the page number of an ideal CV for an internship?
Sorry, do you mind repeating that? It's just very quiet. I couldn't hear you there.
Uh, like, what should be the page number we should use? Like, the CV should be of 2 pages or the 3 pages for an internship.
Oh yes, so I'd recommend ideally no more than 2 pages for a CV, just because you don't want it to be too long. Again, if you aren't feeling very confident with your CV, do feel free to book in an appointment with our careers consultants because that's something they're really good at doing, and probably they will be better to advise rather than me just sort of talking over this call. But also just to flag, obviously, with these applications, we really focus on your answers rather than your CV. So if you're feeling like your CV's, if you're not as confident with your CV, don't worry too much because we assess you on the answers to the questions. So that's what you really want to perfect at this stage.
Okay, so the main focus of should be on the answers rather than like making the CV.
Yes, I definitely recommend really focusing on the answers. Obviously, it's good to have a good CV, particularly when you move forward. But before these questions or before these applications, it will be the answers to the questions that we will be assessing you on, not your CV.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
No worries. Apurva?
Hi, I just wanted to ask, so for the micro internship, you know how you mentioned that the careers team would just be assessing the answers and not like the cover letter and CV, etc. Because basically, I had a look at the roles briefly. I think Matthew helped and sent an email out with a screenshot of the roles, and and because obviously those internships are located in different areas, so I was wondering what the purpose is to grade the answers? Because I thought the company would be assessing them, right? Or is that like additional support? I was just a bit confused on that.
So in terms of assessing, the careers team will be assessing your original answer, all your answers, and then we shortlist. So the ones that meet the questions or answer the questions most effectively and showcase your skills and motivations most effectively, we will then pass on to the company for them to then select from. So, but we do also ask them to use your answers primarily as the things that they look at. But they probably will also ask you to attend an interview, whether it be online or in person as well. Does that help?
Yeah, that makes sense now. It's just to shortlist candidates so that the best candidates go forward for the company's role, basically.
Yeah, sorry, my sound is really quiet for some reason. Do you mind just repeating that?
Oh, I was just saying that it's just to ensure that the best candidates go forward for the company's internship, basically. So that's why the answers are assessed.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank.
I had a quick other question as well, if that's okay. So when we were discussing the responses, the last part of it where you were talking about transferability. So I just wanted to double check that that's just with regard to linking whatever skills you have to the internships, so meeting how it would benefit the company with regard to that specific internship role, right?
Yes, that's correct. So you want to basically use that last part, so that transferability section, just to link the skills you have back to what that company in that particular role is looking for. So, for example, if they're looking for someone who has is able to design a website, you might give an example of how you've designed a website and just finish that sentence or finish that paragraph by using the transferability sentence, just to explain, really summarize, just say how that experience has enabled you to make a website, if that makes sense. So it's just really, it's kind of really obvious. It's just spelling it out really clearly to the employer that that paragraph explains the criteria they're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
No worries, thank you. So I'm just checking if we've got any more. I can see Janina.
Hi, this might be a bit silly, but I just want to double check if micro placements are open to all students, including postgraduate students, so like master's level.
So our micro internships are only open to undergraduates currently.
Okay.
So yeah, so it was only undergraduates that are able to apply.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I can see some of my colleagues are answering questions in the chat. So thank you if you have asked a question, whether it's sort of verbally or in the chat. We will try and answer them as quick as possible if they haven't already been answered, but it looks like most of them have. So if you haven't got any other questions, thank you so much for attending today. Wishing you the best of luck. And well done for coming along and trying to boost your chances of getting a micro internship. Please do feel free to drop out of the call now. But if you do need to reach out to me, I'll put my email in the chat, so you have that to contact me if you need any other question, if you have any other questions. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you everyone for joining the call. Siao, I know you put in the chat that you're struggling to access the opportunities on Target Connect or Careers Hub. Once everyone's left the call, if you wouldn't mind just sharing your screen so we can have a look at what issue you're having on Careers Hub and help you through.
I'm thinking, yes, I think just now someone asked, is it because that I'm a postgraduate student? That's why like I'm not allowed to apply, I guess, because I think someone mentioned that
Oh, I
yeah.
see. Yes. So this opportunity is for undergraduate students. So if you are a postgraduate student, you won't be able to see the opportunity. So yes, that would be the reason why.
Ah, okay. But I'm just wondering, are there any like micro internships that would be open for postgrad? Because I remember like last year, a senior of mine was a master's student, and then she had a micro internship experience. So is that another timeline or something?
No, you are correct. So the program last year was open to master's students. This year the program's taking a different structure. So this year, the micro internship program is open to students that are undergraduate in the science and engineering faculty and the humanities and social sciences faculty. However, we do have other internships that are open to master students and postgraduate students. So they, depending on what faculty you're in, they'll be labeled something different. So if you do look on Careers Hub, and when we do have opportunities live, you will be able to see just a generic internship, but rather than a micro internship. And these are internships between 70 to 350 hours.
Okay, so I should just focus on like keyword internship, right?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.